It's a gray, foggy day here in St. John's, Newfoundland. And it reminded me of my first movie I've ever created. I first came to Canada, St. John's, Newfoundland in '96. I was 21 at the time, and I had left my home at 15. During the war, I was everywhere, doing everything. I had good friends and bad friends. I've done good things and really bad things. And I managed to survive with integrity the bad things I've done. Still, luckily enough, I was able to save my face to a degree. It's impossible to do so in the war. So I came here. I was helped by my mortal enemies, Serbs, to come here. A friend by name Zoran, which means morning, filled out an application for me. Another friend, Zoran, this guy was a BBC correspondent from Rio de Janeiro who ended up in Sarajevo during the war and being a refugee with me. Another friend, Zoran, was a drummer in a local band, punk rock band, rock and roll band. And he told me, now that you have an application and you can go, and if you don't go, I will be angry at you for the rest of my life. We will still be friends, but I will never forgive you for taking that chance. Because you have a chance to go out and do something. We have to stay in this dark country where people still hate each other over stupid things like their names or religion or sexuality. And he helped me sober up. You know, I was drunk most of the time, really. From party to party, I didn't really care about myself or my life, because I knew at some point or at any point I could just die easily. So I decided to take that chance and came here. And a third friend, also Zoran. I guess most of the Serbs were born in the morning or made in the morning. I guess morning sex is better than the evening sex. They would know. Helped me get my first job here. I was a roofer. Him and I were fixing this roof here in town. You know, we were like at the bottom of the barrel, no protection, climbed the roof, changed the shingles for peanuts. And funny thing is, the first time I had peanut butter was during that job. This lady served us ants on a log, which is peanut butter on celery and raisins on top of it. I laughed and I laughed and I laughed and I ate. Back to the main road. I really am not ready for it, but that's okay. Looks silly with this camera walking around, but that's okay. So I came here, and really, at that time, I had not seen my parents for about 6, 7, 8 years. And suddenly I received a videotape. They sent a videotape in which, they were there, my friends were there. My friends came over to my home, played my guitar. They were showing me where the shrapnel kind of broke the guitar, but it was still okay to be played. It was such an amazing experience, right? To see my parents for the first time, like, after 7, 8 years. I cannot tell you how it felt, because, when my mother gave birth to me, she was 20 years old. When I left I was 15, So she was 35 when I left my home. And I remember her as being a young woman, you know. But the tape showed this old graying couple sitting on the same sofa that I slept on during my childhood. And it just dawned on me how much time had passed and how they changed, how I changed, how everything changed, and that the war actually happened. And that because of this ideology at work, I lost not just my family, but myself, my identity, who I was, and everything else. I became a different person. Now I was a Canadian citizen speaking English, listening to rock and roll. Back home I listened to punk rock. I cried for so long. It was such a difficult time. It really was, to watch that tape, just to see my parents, because like I said, you know, one thing is to be next to them every day and see them growing old, but another thing is to leave them in such a way, and then when you come back again to find them, and it's just heartbreaking. So I decided to make my own tape. I asked a friend who was my host here to drive me around town. I went to stores to show them how much food we have in stores, how we have meat, how we have dessert. I was showing off. I was being silly, I guess. Showed them Signal Hill, you know, some memorable places here in St. John's, Newfoundland, the harbor, the sea. But I started with that song about fog. Just like here in Newfoundland, there's a song called Grey Foggy Day. We have one about fog in our own country. But it's not about fog as the weather, it's more like the memory. You know, how everything seems to change with time, and then you see yourself through fog and you see everything else through fog. It's a different sentiment to that song. And I sent that tape to them. That was the first time they also saw me. I have no idea how they reacted. I do know that, you know, my ex-wife told me that my mother pretty much died because of her sorrow. You know, she felt that, you know, she lost her son due to the war and misunderstanding and culture and so many other things. Because I initially left my home not because of the war, because I could not get along with my mother. We had a very, very difficult relationship. Very, very, very difficult relationship. I spoke about her in the previous video, and I realize now how much that affected me and how much it affected her. You know, for somebody who had to sacrifice her whole life for her children, for her family, and then to lose them like that, you know, to lose their son in such a way. Again, I left when I was 15, and we didn't even speak. There was no way I could call them or communicate with them. All the communication was shut off during the war. There was no way to like write letters or just call them or email them. Just we were in dark for so long until that videotape, until I saw them, and then until they saw me. It was a beautiful video. It was a kind of funny avant-garde video. I remember after, you know, 10 years when I got my passport and I was able to go back, you know, without being afraid of being arrested for war crimes I did not commit. My friends here from St. John's wanted to go with me and make a documentary about me going back home for the first time after 10 years and facing the reality know, the people that I thought were the enemy were actually the good guys. I fought my own people. I fought myself, been doing that my whole life. I told them no, I wanted to keep that memory just to myself. And that movie and that trip is always going to be in my mind. You know, no video, no book, no song can express everything. Some things are just left in the air, and you'll just randomly experience them through your own senses subconsciously. See you in the next video.